we're back for another deep dive. So I was approached back in 2015 by Markus Michelucci, who's a wonderful Canadian human being, singer-songwriter. We had one or two mutual musical friends, so we knew we were kind of from the same pool of nice musicians. And this was a great challenge to make because he wanted to add a little bit of a blue twist in this guitar. Alongside this guitar, I was building another instrument for myself, which was also an OM. And it's always fun to build two guitars simultaneously. Naturally, I preferred his guitar than my own, but it was too late to keep this one for myself. But it's nice to see it again. So the woods, what's this made of? This is English walnut. So English walnut is a little bit different looking to maybe black American walnut. This stuff is much more browny, green, it's got lighter beige kind of colours in it. I find that English walnut's a bit harder and denser as well than black American walnut, which is, it's like the Aero chocolate bar of the walnut world. Really nice straight grained, no fuss. I kind of love guitars like this. English walnut back and sides. We've got flame maple bindings, Sitka spruce top, ebony fingerboard, ebony headstock veneer and bridge. And we've got spruce bracings inside as well. So many of you will know I'm a big fan of walnut. I'm always banging on about how much I love walnut. Probably at least 50% of the guitars I made are probably walnut. I just like it. It's an indigenous wood. It seems unnecessary to ship wood halfway around the world in search of a particular tone, because I think we've got it all growing on our doorsteps. This stuff sounds amazing. I love it. But yeah, it's a dream combo for me. So the other thing I do that I think not a lot of makers do is I'm always chasing lightweight instruments. There's a bit of a trend among some makers to build the guitar a little bit like a snare drum, so really stiff back and side and have a very lively top. It makes for great sounding guitars, but I like the whole thing to vibrate because that way you get a lot more of the character of the back and sides in the sound of the instrument. For me, that is the exciting part about guitar making. I like to hear the result of the wood that I'm using and let the wood do a lot of the talking. See, that way you get to really hear what those different materials actually sound like, which is just one of the things about guitar making that brings me so much joy, I guess. In this chase for lightweight instruments, one of the things I've taken from the gypsy jazz guitars that I build is the use of spruce for the end and tail blocks. So these are the blocks that are in the bottom of the instrument, about here. About that big. Equally, if not more important, is the neck block. So that's the block of wood that actually sits at the top about here. It's normally slightly wider than the neck itself, and inside that block will be the socket that the dovetail slots into. I think some makers find hardwoods more reassuring for something like a neck pocket, but I've seen the old Selmer guitars with their spruce blocks and they're fully intact, so I see no reason to not use spruce, and the amount of weight that you save is huge because it's a big chunk of wood. By just making it out of a softwood rather than a hardwood saves you grams of weight, and it's all about marginal gains in the world of Lutherie. So features. Well, I think the main unique feature of this instrument with regard to the guitars that I normally make is the increased body depth. You get 100 millimeters, so it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a good 1.5 centimeters deeper at the neck end, and it's about 110 at the tail end, so it's the taper of the sides is quite subtle. So normally you taper the sides of the guitar so it's thicker here and thinner here, and it's kind of predominantly a comfort thing, so that when you're holding the guitar against your body it's not so far away from you. But the larger the instrument, the richer the tone. Controversial opinion alert. Essentially, the main difference that this is going to have on the sound is it's going to have the sound of a bigger guitar. So if you want to get the sound of a jumbo without actually making a guitar that's so huge, you can increase the depth of the body. And I think, broadly speaking, it has a similar tonal effect. And that tonal effect is that you have a more delicate, nuanced tone. There's more in the sound of the guitar, but they do tend to be a bit quieter. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got something like a parlour guitar. They tend to be pretty loud and brash, but with a sort of narrower, pokier tone, which is amazing for like blues, fingerstyle and things like that. But I think if you want a guitar with a nuanced tone, this is the way to go. We've also got some of the beginnings of my kind of early forays into geometric Art Deco inlays. So this guitar's got a reasonably conventional rosette, but there are some little geometric touches. Little beauty spot in the corner. We've also got some nice custom inlays on this. So some triangles, a bit of a triforce going on the 12th fret. Markus's favourite number 6 on the back of the headstock. I also personally love these little stripy heel caps. I've done that on a few guitars. It's nice to have something that stands out. It's a bit different. The neck joint on this guitar is about here, whereas normally you'd find it on my guitar somewhere up here. This is probably a slightly stronger way to make it because you've got the fingerboard, which is a thicker piece of wood, spanning over that joint. We've also got some lovely Shallot Grand Tune machine heads, which are my favourite machine heads for a slotted headstock. I think they just look $1 million. These are brass bridge pins made by a company called Pins, P-I-N-Z. I don't think they're around anymore, but I absolutely love these. They're so nice with these inset abalone buttons on top. And they're a really nice shape. They're much easier to pull out than those blasted round-headed bridge pins. Well, I already talked a little bit about the sound of this guitar. I love what you get from that added depth in the body at the neck end. So, like I say, you sacrifice a little bit of comfort for a little bit of sound. Take your pick. But yeah, it's great. It's out of tune. So sound-wise, I think this guitar just got it all. I love it. There's something about, as time passes, guitars just sound better. And I think the reason for that is any little micro tensions in the wood as a result of putting it together, trying to make that piece of wood forget that it ever used to be a tree, eventually dissipates over time, and then the whole instrument just starts to freely vibrate. So there's a lot to be said for building a guitar with as little tension in it as possible. But I think it's inevitable. You're always going to have some joins where the wood still has a bit of memory, especially from the bending of the sides, the curvature of the back over the braces. And until that settles down, I think the full potential of the sound of the instrument is yet to be unleashed. And I don't know, I think this guitar proves that to me, because I think 8 years on, it just sounds better than ever. It's got a super balanced, rounded bottom end. It's a bit like sitting on a cloud. It's just very nice. Yeah, I think the bigger the guitar, the more balanced the sound as well. So up high, down the bottom, it's kind of giving it all. Whereas I do find those smaller guitars, you know, the shorter scale lengths and the smaller body sizes, they're quite sort of pokey and brash, so you kind of find that a certain part of the fingerboard is where all the volume is to be at. But a guitar like this is a little bit bigger. I think you get a much more balanced sound as a result. I look forward to seeing you soon. And we'll have a few more deep dives. We're going to go see some trees. There's more stuff coming. You keep following this YouTube channel. Subscribe.